Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Whoever you are and wherever you come from, for this hour we are one gathered congregation and all are welcome. I invite you to follow along in our order of service. For those of you attending virtually, all the links for this service, including the order of service, are on our website and in this morning's worship service email. If you are here in the sanctuary this morning, please silence any electronic devices. My name is Lisa Johnson. My husband Mac and I, longtime members here. I have recently begun singing with our choir, our rehearsals on Thursday evening, and we welcome new choir members, and hopefully, before too long, we'll actually be able to sing to you. We're hoping. Our worship leader this morning is Reverend Margo Rinehart, our own homegrown UU minister. We are so excited to welcome Margo back. Her ordination ceremony was in June of 2020 here. We did it virtually, like so many other things. But we are so grateful and happy that she eventually became ordained as a full-fledged UU minister. Currently, she is wrapping up with a UU congregation in McMinnville, Oregon. Welcome, Reverend Margo. And I'd like to welcome any visitors. If you're here in person, we would all love to welcome you outside after the service. If you are attending virtually, please introduce yourself after the service at our Zoom coffee hour. And everyone is welcome to attend our Zoom coffee hour directly after this service. The link is in the email that went out this morning and will show on your screen following the worship service. You may need to use the password coffee with a capital C to be admitted to the coffee hour. And the announcements are available on our website, www.kuuf.org, or in our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish lived in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's central Salish Sea for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Now, please stand as you're willing and able to sing our musical call to worship. Hymn number 347 in the Singing the Living tradition, also known as our Gray Hymnal. Gather the Spirit, number 347. Please join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, please light it as Lenny Barone reads these chalice lighting words.
This is a house for the ingathering of nature and human nature. It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person. It is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks. This house is a cradle for our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor.
Thank you, Lenny. Now please join me in the spoken affirmation. The words will appear on the screen. We gather as a caring community seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. Now, Melinda Hughes, our Director of Religious Education, will share our time for all ages.
Good morning, everyone. I have a story to share with you today called Hank's Big Day, the Story of a Bug. I gotta make sure I don't hit this with the book. Okay. So this is when you really need to pay attention to the pictures too, because there's things in the picture that I don't read, so you want to pay attention. A big rock, I guess I can read it, Hank's house. Hank, a pill bug, crawls out from under. This is Hank. Hank shimmies through tall grass. He nibbles on a dead leaf. Breakfast over, Hank creeps past a cricket, a curious cricket. He comes upon a worm tied in a knot, a weird worm, and an ant carrying a potato chip, an industrious ant. Yikes, a scary grasshopper. Hank climbs a long stick. He continues climbing the stick. He finishes climbing the stick. There's Hank's exercise stick. Then he curls up in the tall grass, plain dead. Hank scoots along and finds himself on a sidewalk. He looks both ways, then starts to cross. He lumbers through a pothole, a shady spot. He stops to inspect a rainbow made of chalk, some stripy art. He climbs on top of a bottle cap, a slippery round thing. Hank finishes crossing as a boy rides by on a skateboard, too close for comfort. Hank trudges onward and comes upon a smiling face. She is dressed up like her hero, the famous flyer Amelia Earhart, Hank's best friend, Amelia. With Amelia's help, Hank crawls onto her helmet. Amelia jumps up, tilts her arms, and takes off with Hank aboard. Amelia and her co-pilot, Hank the Pillbug, are crossing the Atlantic Ocean in their airplane. Together, they run around the front yard, an amazing view of the world. Amelia and Hank zip through the side yard. Amelia's dog is fast asleep in her doghouse. The brave pilots fly over England and wave to the Queen. Hello, Queen! In Paris, the plane just misses the Eiffel Tower. Amelia lands near a cafe, La Velvet Bug. The flyers circle a maple tree and head for a picnic table. Hank nibbles a peppermint leaf, and Amelia drinks from a juice box. Yum. Snack break over, Amelia puts out her hand, and Hank crawls back on board. They run across the yard and down the driveway. Amelia's brother Aaron is playing with his army guys. Hank and Amelia return to America. They make a daring landing as millions cheer. Amelia sets Hank on the mossy rock where she found him. Hank gazes up at Amelia. What friendship looks like. Hank crosses the sidewalk, curls up and plays dead, treks down his exercise stick, and passes the grasshopper, the ant, the worm, and the cricket. Then he takes a big bite out of a dead leaf. Yum. And when day is done, Hank crawls under his rock at last. Home, sweet home. Has anybody had a day like that, playing outside in the yard, running around until at night you just fall into bed sound asleep? Today looks like a good day for that. It's a nice sunny day outside. All right, the children and I are going to head up to the Matin building, and the rest of you are going to sing us on out.
Thank you. Our next hymn, Spring Has Now Unwrapped the Flowers, originates from the Renaissance era of music, compiled in the Pie Cantiones, a collection of late medieval Latin songs in 1582 in Sweden. It was updated with music by Thomas Benjamin, a Unitarian composer and conductor who recently retired from Johns Hopkins University, where he was chair of the Department of Music Theory. For those in sanctuary, please stand as you're willing and able to sing hymn number 63 in Singing the Living Tradition. Spring has now unwrapped the flowers. Now it is time for our morning offering. If your offering is for KUUF, please put it into the envelopes in the baskets. Loose change, cash, or checks placed in the basket will go to this month's recipient of our charitable giving, Kitsap Immigrant Assistance Center, whose mission is recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of all people. KUUF works for the well-being and empowerment of immigrants through education, advocacy, and social justice. If you would like to donate electronically, please use the PayPal link in this morning's email or on our website or the QR code on the bottom of our order of service. If you give online, you may email admin@kuuf.org to let us know if your donation is for 1, the KUUF General Fund, 2, the Minister's Discretionary Fund to help our members in need, or 3, our monthly charitable giving recipient. Funds that are not given a designation will go to our general fund. If you'd like to donate by check and you are attending virtually, please send a check to the address on the screen. On the memo line, please designate to which of the funds your offering should go. And if this is your first time at KUUF, you are our guest and there is no need to contribute. So let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this community which is sacred to so many of us. Let us now enjoy our pianist Brian Kinney's gift of music, La Fille aux Chevaux de Lin by Claude Debussy. Thank you, Brian. That was lovely. Now is the time for our joys and sorrows. Though we may be physically distanced from one another, our heads and our spirits remain connected. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows lessened. And in keeping with today's Worship for All Ages, we have a joy that today the temperature may reach 70 degrees, so we can play out in the sunshine. Also, a joy that KUUF now has clean gutters, thanks to Paul Wilson and Bill Budd, who were up on the ladders this week to clean them out. And Marty Bishop and Bill Budd have a joy that Marty's sister Tricia has come to live with them at their home. And we have another joy from Bonner Sams, who says he won the hearts game at yesterday's at Alan and Ellen Newberg's. It was an overdue auction item, and they got together in the sunshine yesterday afternoon. Good times were had by all. Thank you, Alan and Ellen. And Karen Leader Scott, a sorrow that Ginger Uni's stepdad, who raised her, recently passed away. Please hold Ginger and her family in your hearts. And Cassidy Owen has a sorrow that their nanny suddenly departed due to personal circumstances, suddenly leaving them without childcare. It is hard, but they are figuring it out. Good luck with that. And we light one last candle for those joys and sorrows that are still too tender to share. Please join me in a moment of prayer or intention. In the spirit of community in which we find strength and common purpose, we share our joys, our sorrows, our hopes, and our dreams. We have turned our minds and hearts toward one another in trust, giving love, seeking comfort, and celebrating together. We are part of the web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. In all the moments of our lives, for those loved ones and events shared this morning, and for those we yet hold in the silence of our hearts, we are truly grateful for the love and support of this beloved community. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life, hymn number 123, in the Singing the Living Tradition, in our great hymnal. For those at home, the words will appear on our screen.
Morning. Since we are exploring play this morning, I picked a piece from Wendell Berry in which he describes play in nature. I sat one summer evening and watched a great blue heron make his descent from the top of the hill into the valley. He came down at a deliberate pace, stately as always, like a dignitary going down a stair. And then, at a point I judged to be midway over the river, without at all varying even a wing beat, he did a backward turn in the air, a complete loop-de-loop. It could only have been a gesture of pure exuberance, of joy, as speaking of his sense of the evening, the day's fulfillment, and his descent homeward. He made just that one slow turn and then flew out of sight in the direction of the slough further down in the gully. The moment was incredibly beautiful. At once exalted and stately, and a benediction on the evening and on the river and on me. It seems so perfectly to confirm the presence of a free, non-human joy in the world. So we'll just pause for a moment in silence. If you close your eyes, maybe you can picture that loop-de-loop in a warm evening. If you can be that heron, be it. Feel that wind under your wings. Feel that strength as you loop and you fly for the pure joy of it. Maybe you even do a second loop as you find your way home, like the little bug in our children's story. Thank you, Brian. So first, let me say it is so exciting to be back here at my home congregation. I began attending KUUF in 1997, and I became a member in 1998. For those of you who came to KUUF probably after 2015, maybe, you may not know me or just only a bit, because I started seminary in 2014, and that took me away on a lot of weekends to be in class. And for the past 2 years, I've been in McMinnville, Oregon, serving as their minister. And I will say, when I'm at the fellowship at McMinnville, I often use little stories from KUUF about how you grow a church, about how you deepen commitment to Unitarian Universalism, and how to care for one another, and all those things I learned right here. It feels so good to be home. So I first thought about play as a spiritual practice, and hence, once I come upon a spiritual practice, that then becomes a sermon topic in my mind, because that's what ministers do. But I started thinking about play as a spiritual practice in the summer of 2021. Because remember back then, most people got vaccinated by then. We thought COVID numbers would be dropping. My church in McMinnville, we even started having Sunday services outside, in person. So what better time than last summer to start playing together? But then fall came, and winter, and we came upon a word called the Omicron virus. So January through March of 2022, it just seemed like a terrible setback. The possibility to play in the context of community just didn't seem so abundant. And as we opened again after that, this spring, we were thinking, okay, we're going to find a new comfort zone with settings for work and play and church. and even at the grocery store. We were all working on just finding what was our comfort zone. So then our numbers started to rise, and now we're back again going, where do I feel comfortable? Where can I go? How can I be? So I think we need play now as much as ever. And I want to think about how play even happens right here at a Sunday worship service. I think we can all agree that play can be found around us and has probably been part of the human and the animal experience for a really long time. A few days ago, I watched Cooper hawks riding on the thermals. They were clearly just up there for the fun of it. Their eyes were not pointed down. They were not hunting. They were just playing. I hear kids running around and laughing as they wait for the bus. And I see people playing cribbage outside or walking together. I personally discovered watercolor, and I love painting as play. And a lot of times I'm not very good at it, but that doesn't stop me at all from the enjoyment of it. So as I thought about play, I thought, well, maybe I should go see what an expert has to say. So I looked at the long ago work of a Dutch linguist and historian, Johan Huizinga, who took a professional interest in adults at play. He published actually in the 1930s in a work called Homo Ludens. And he described play as an activity which proceeds within certain limits of time and space, in a visible order, according to rules freely accepted, and outside the sphere of necessity and material utility. I disagreed instantly. But then he added on, well, the play mood is one of rapture and enthusiasm. It is sacred or festive, and it's in accordance sometimes with an occasion. And there's a feeling of exaltation and tension that accompanies the action. So I could agree with some of that, and other parts, not so much. Because before I was a minister, I was a social worker, and I spent a fair amount of time reading social science. And as a result, I know that play was not outside the sphere of necessity. I'll go out on a limb and say the more stressful your life, the more necessary play is. And the other little thing, as I found out about Johan Huizinga's work, is he was studying the play in context of medieval, Renaissance, and late Baroque periods. I just put it together in my head this morning when Lisa was talking about Brian's music, how music I could see being so much involved in play and dance for people of that era. But he was studying people of leisure. He wasn't studying children, and he wasn't studying parents and peasants out in the field. Because you only have to spend a little time around children, both human and mammal children, to know that play creates fitness and it hones the skills they need for life. They gain mastery, but they play for the pure pleasure of it. So know that social science and brain research tell us that interactive play makes humans more empathetic. And there's a strong correlation in the literature between a playful activity on a regular basis and success in other areas of adulthood. And if you are someone who's prone to perfectionism or workaholism, or you have that high need for control and predictability, that would be me, you need more play in your day and in your week so that you can create balance. If you live alone, You need to take time to find space and place in your days to create play, maybe with others. It can decrease demands we make on ourselves, and what I really notice about play is it just turns off the monkey chatter, 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 chatter of the brain and allows us to immerse ourselves in something else. I also came upon the book Deep Play by Diane Ackerman. Now, Diane Ackerman is a poet and an essayist, and one of my favorite people to read. And she's possibly the most well-known for her book, A Natural History of the Senses, which she probably wrote maybe 20 years ago. I think that's kind of when she burst onto the nationally known scene. She's fascinated by play in animals and humans, and she's particularly interested in the play of crows, which I think could be a sermon in and of itself. She went off to watch the penguins play in Antarctica, and then she headed north to observe the dolphins playing. She says that when we're involved in play, we are gripped by the experience, and that there are different types of play that range from the spontaneous to the more planned, like a board game or a sports game, with rules and an outcome, but that can still be play. They even noticed when they were off with the dolphins playing, dolphins were using, of course, their echolocating. And the dolphins decided to give most of their attention to the woman on the boat who happened to be pregnant. So were the dolphins actually using that echolocation into the waters of life in her belly? And they beckoned her especially into their midst. So when she came back from doing all this touring and all this thinking about play, she said, when we're in deep play, we lay aside our sense of self. We shed time's continuum. And we can ignore our pain for a while, or at least dull it. You can sit and play in the absolute present and watch the world's ordinary miracles like a sunset. You don't have to analyze, you don't have to explain, you don't have to quest for logic, you don't have to make promises, you don't have to worry about what's happening. She says, remain open to a drama that's unfolding in front of you. A drama like a play. In her words, she said, with innocent surprise, one can regard life's spectacles and underpinnings. All one feels is affectionate curiosity for the whole bustling enterprise of creation. It doesn't matter what prompts the feeling, watching birds court or following the sky-blown oasis of a tumultuous sunset. And I agree with Ackerman that when we experience play, we can often have a sense of revelation and gratitude. Nothing needs to be thought about or planned or even said sometimes. And beholding all of that can be a form of prayer, or sometimes I think a moving meditation. Quite recently, I noticed this experience for myself, and certainly not for the first time, but in a time of more awareness, because I was thinking about what is play in my life and what does it take me to this timeless moment? So there are probably just a few of you out there who know I'm a competent cyclist, and I have been, I will say with pride, since about the age of 7, and I just never gave it up. I'm not speedy fast, but I'm steady, and I can finish 30 and even 40 miles and still have something left at the end of the day. So every Thursday, I cycle with some friends who I've been cycling with for, probably close to 15 years now. It's my Sabbath day. I finally labeled it a few years ago as my Sabbath day. So on those Thursdays, cycling becomes play. It's play I usually do in community, and it's my prayer on my Sabbath day. I love the endorphins that come. It's like the runner's high, except it's the cyclist high. But even if I don't get that, my senses are taking in everything. The sights, the smells, the noises, the taste of water that never tastes so good as it does at the top of that hill, and the feel of the bike underneath my hands on the handlebars. One of my favorite rides is from downtown Port Orchard out to that Southworth Ferry and back, and it is a sensory-filling ride. And a few weeks ago, I had ridden about 14 miles out on a primarily upgrade hill, slight at first, and I had a headwind in my face. So what that means is I'm trying to go up the first few miles were level, then I'm trying to go up for close to 9 miles with a wind in my face, pushing me, trying to send me backwards. So I'm not exactly experiencing this as fun or play. I'm not really getting into my rhythm. I don't have a friend with me. I happen to be riding alone that day. But I am thinking about play. I'm also thinking about when I get back to the car, I can go to the espresso stand. But I finally get to the top, and I make the big turn, and I stop and I drink some water, and then I start down, and I'm in the big gears, and the big gears are fun because you don't have to work very hard and you're going really fast. So I am feeling pure joy, and I'm feeling the air actually working with me this time. And I have this huge grin on my face, and I'm thinking about nothing but the wildflowers that are popping up and a few chipmunks that I'm seeing darting in and out. Time is standing still. I feel like I have all of Ackerman's things. There's no sense of self. There's no pain in my legs or my lungs. And time, I have shed time's continuum. So I see a cyclist coming up the hill. And when he gets close enough, he says to me, "Wow, you must be loving that downhill tailwind." And before COVID, I would have said to him, "Yes, and I earned it." So I'm going to just pull apart that statement for a minute. Yes, and I earned it. Because right away, I hear 3 things when I look at this in the context of actual play. The first thing is just informational. What I'm telling him is I earned it, so he knows I'm not starting at the top coming down to make the loop. I've already done the uphill. And sometimes when you're out hiking or cycling, or I've even had this experience when I'm on a driving vacation and I'm at the gas station, sometimes you want to ask people questions about where they've been and where you're going. So I'm letting him know a little just friendly cycling information. I've already been there. But secondly, and here's where the problem comes in, I hear that I earned the ease that I was experiencing because I gutted through the hard parts. So play in that context is a reward for suffering. And that's not okay. Play is there for its own sake. And I'm not saying that it can't alleviate suffering that you're having, but you don't have to suffer to have the freedom of play. And the third thing I found in that statement that I also didn't like was about self-esteem. Do we always have to earn it, or can we just be enough? Can we just say, I am not going to mow the lawn today. I really need a moment where I am just going to get out of here and go out and enjoy something beautiful. You don't have to Increase your self-worth to indulge in play. So, I didn't say that to him. I'm watching, he says to me, I must be enjoying that tailwind, and I say, yes, and it feels great. I didn't have to earn it. I didn't have to struggle to be worthy. Not having to communicate that I'd done the uphill and I'd done my due diligence. Just, nope, it feels great. Living in that moment of play took me beyond time, beyond worry. I wasn't thinking about what I was going to put on my grocery list. I wasn't thinking about what my monthly budget looked like. I wasn't thinking about what to say in my next Sunday sermon. I wasn't worried about my mom. I just lived in the joy of the moment. And I really think that was one of the results of my COVID isolation experience, was to get every positive moment I could. And I was riding alone that day, so I was even able to experience that moment without being with others. It really makes me think of that poem that we use as Unitarian Universalists quite often from Mary Oliver, the Wild Geese poem, where she says, "You don't have to crawl on your knees through the desert for 100 miles. Just love what you love and engage in it wholly." And I mean that in both descriptions of that word. I mean it as H-O-L-Y, and I also mean it as W-H. You don't have to crawl on your knees through the desert for 1,000 miles, repenting. Instead, love what you love. Engage in it wholly. I did find some of Ackerman's work to be kind of elitist and discriminatory, and the same is true of my cycling story. It assumes you have money and time to visit amazing places, going off to observe penguins in Antarctica, and it also assumes an able-bodiedness in both those stories, because we can't all run, play tag, bike, and go on photo safaris to Africa. Which is why you need room in your life to start thinking about play as art and sexuality and music and even worship. And these uncertain times of emerging out of COVID, for I can't even remember which time we're in now, I think keeping multiple ways of play at our disposal helps us feel less restricted. The last kind of play I will talk about is when Ackerman talks about worship as play, and she's looking at that across the globe, and she talks about worship has the visual and the musical and the verbal arts, and it often has dancing, and it has elements of play and drama. I think about the story for all ages this morning. How many of us got swept up in the tail of that little bug? We weren't thinking about our grocery list. We were just thinking about Amelia and that little bug, Hank. I also noticed the beautiful music this morning and the incredible flowers. Apparently, not only do flowers appear on your altar every Sunday, they now appear in your windows. These just little gifts from someone who is preferring to remain anonymous. So deep play is a hallmark of our being human, and it reveals our need for transcendence. It makes us seek thrill-seeking. I'm looking at Mac, the rock climber in the front row here, who plays on the side of rocks hanging over a valley. And she says it makes religion inevitable. So when we come to Sunday morning worship, we seek community, but we also seek answers from the cosmic mysteries. So if we conceive of at least part of what we do here this morning as play, it can take us from our day-to-day thoughts and give us some respite. As we go forth in our emergence from our COVID behavior, we go out. How close can we stand to one another? Am I going to wear this mask forever? Am I still going to order everything online and feel guilty that I'm ordering from Amazon? Make more time for deep play. As we head into the warmer weather, invite a friend over to play mahjong or cribbage at a table in your backyard or meet at a park. Go for a walk in nature's beauty. Notice the kids' laughter at the park. You might want to take up a new hobby. And don't be a perfectionist if you take up a new hobby. I can lose myself in a puzzle for hours. And go out and find Wendell Berry's heron, and go out and find right now all the birds are doing their crazy bird thing that they do this time of year, so that your mind isn't always working on solving a problem. I will close today with some words from Frederick and Mary Bresat. Hearing someone laugh is my cue to practice play. A swing set or a child laughing reminds me that all ground is a sacred playground. Whenever I can, I vow to pause in those moments of timelessness and creativity. Blessed is the giver of life that has provided play as a way to celebrate the lightness of our being. Amen. You'll hear an invitation to play in the hymn coming up. Come travel with me. You'll hear the Menifees beckoning you on. Come and travel with them. And I believe, Mike, you're playing the horn in this piece. And Elena's singing. Yeah.
Let's go, whoever you are, let's go, come travel with me. Let's go, whoever you are, let's go. Come travel
the service today, please immediately exit through the foyer, but you are encouraged to greet each other outside. And there's coffee service out on the breezeway. And all of you who are attending from home or elsewhere are invited to greet each other during the virtual coffee hour on Zoom. The link to join is in this morning's email, and the password is coffee with a capital C. Can't imagine why they picked that. So our closing words today are the words that kind of summarize the hope that we take some learning with us from every Sunday morning of what we've been exploring together. Go your ways, knowing not the answers to all things, yet seeking always the answer to one more thing than you know. And Donna Monroe is dying to add something. There's asparagus.
Yeah, there's asparagus.
Donna raises the fresh asparagus.